welcome to NSN Connect from National Skills Network. This is the fourth episode of the series Reigniting the Skilling Landscape in India, and in today's episode we are going to look at technical education and training scenario in India with reference to Industrial Training Institutes or ITIs. ITIs have played a phenomenal role in providing skilled human resources to many industry sectors in the past 70 plus years. Even today, when you think of long-term technical education and training, it is the ITIs that come to our mind. But is the branding of ITIs still relevant? Is it as attractive as other courses that the students would want to enroll in? What are the issues that the ITIs face in terms of getting the appropriate industry engagement? And are there any other issues that are connected with, let's say, training of instructors and so on? So these are some of the key issues that we need to look at to improve the ITIs in India. And besides this, another important aspect is the industry collaboration that is much needed to make the ITI training relevant and useful for the students as well as the industry. So let's go ahead and continue our conversation with Rajesh A R, CEO LabourNet, to get his insights on some of these issues and understand deeper about how we can improve the technical training and education scenario in India while we reignite the skilling landscape in India. So Rajesh, today I thought I will ask you a few things about the technical education and training landscape in India. When we talk about this, I think the first thing that comes to our mind is the huge number of ITIs we have in every state and union territory. I think there are about 15,500 plus ITIs, including government and private. Now, let me just share a few observations and maybe a couple of experiences so that, you can throw some light on how you perceive them. And also you should maybe give us few solid action points, because I think most of the discourse or the narrative around ITIs is, at the discussion level, at making things aspirational and so on and so forth. But what has to happen in action, how to get the outcomes, I think is most critical at this juncture. So to start with, I'll just talk about a couple of biases about ITIs. As you know, I interact with a lot of people. I have interacted with many people who are connected with the ITI ecosystem, and most often I have heard them saying, hey, look, these students come from socio-economically poor background, and do you think they can afford to do this? They can afford to do that financially. And for them, like, this is the end of the path for them. And, it's like, I don't see that kind of enthusiasm or that kind of vibrancy which the people who are connected with ITI should have, because this really rubs on the student also, right? So this is one. And the second one is, historically, since 1950s, ITIs have been contributing in a big way. It's just that post-manufacturing, when the services took over, we don't see so much of action happening there. But the revival has happened in 2016 when there was, of course, these could be cosmetic changes at one level, the launching of the logo and the convocation and equivalence, etc. But they are very solid measures, right? So in the entire context, from policy to practice, what do you think each stakeholder should be doing? So when I say stakeholder, the ITIs themselves with the leadership, the principals and the staff. Second could be the parents, the society. Third is the government, and fourth is the industry. So you can take it in whichever order you want.
Yeah, thanks, Madhuri. So I think we'll spend a little time on the particular policy conversation which you just spoke right now. First of all, when somebody talks about a word ITI, what resonates? It is male-dominated, technical. It is in a factory setup. I mean, these are immediate things which comes into our mind when somebody talks about as an ITI, Industrial Technical Training Institute. So,
lathe machines, maybe.
Absolutely. So, and when a positioning of, and what has happened is with industry has evolved over the last 20 to 30 years. The positioning has been like an ITI, which, and the name, I mean, I'm just coming with the cosmetic thing of even it's a name, it actually communicates something else. So whether are we able to get people interested in services? Is India has become a service-oriented GDP? Are we able to attract services kind of trades into it, even though ITI is offering, right? I mean, ITI offers right from beauty to COPA to fashion to, there are a whole lot of services trades which is offering. But has it gone down to the set of target audience to look at ITI even for those trades? In my mind, it requires to start changing the name ITI to a skill development center, and skills is more wider. And if you technically look at it, the government has made the right changes of merging NCVT to NSDA, that is now it is called NCVET. Government is now going to implement NEP. So there are a lot of things which is bringing the element. So right from a name change, which appeals to the audiences which we just spoke right now, which is your family or a social or employer or industry or candidate or the student or to the ITI principal and sit together.
I want to interrupt and add something quickly so that it doesn't go out of my mind. Very nice that you spoke about name change, because I strongly feel craftsman training scheme, don't you think it's very outdated today? We are in 2021, 2022 now, 75 years of India's independence and so on and so forth. Everything is not craftsman. Forget about the gender bias about it. Okay, we take it for, we don't mind. Let's assume we don't mind. But still, craftsman or craftsperson, I don't think that really captures the youth, today's youth aspirations, right? So when you said the name change, I said, and on the one hand you have ITIs and on the other you have Indian Institute of Skills. You look at the kind of gap we have between these two institutions, right? One is already branded as very aspirational and one is on the other level, the lowest of the levels, I would say. So can you please tell us a little more about how one can do these things, like right from naming?
Absolutely. So like you said, CTS, all those things has to be made in line with what is a youth aspiration. That's what has to be looked at. Now let us look at in terms of other than these kind of cosmetic, I'm not saying cosmetic, it is most making the brand relevant to the target audience.
Right.
That is more important. Now, who is the target audience is a key question. First key target audience in my mind is the student. I mean, in terms of the core of whomever we are trying to, let's call them as a primary target audience. Now, right from a student can enroll into a technical training institute from 8th, 10th or 12th, okay? Which means vocationalization of school education, which is the key word in the NEP policy, will bring in the element of a student to know about various vocational programs. Whether he is in 8th, 10th, 12th, he can know about food crossing, he can know about various things. And with the right assessment, he can also figure out his aspiration. Okay. So if a student is able to be counseled and guided while the person is in school, I'm not saying at 8th standard, right from 6th standard or kind of a thing. So if he breaks out of 8th, if he breaks out of 10th, if he drops out of 12th, he has a element of going into an alternate vocational education. Otherwise, he can continue from 12th and he can go into an aspirational skill development post 12th. I'm just talking about with 50% of people who write exams of 10th or 12th fail. So I'm just giving you the statistics from both the perspective. Now, when a student is at the core and with the policy changes which has happened, now how do we execute the student counseling? One is in terms of how do we ensure in school education, principal, teachers, and everybody is built, capacity is built in to know more about vocational education. Today, I'm afraid that a lot of teachers may not know the career options in a vocational education. In a principle of, then they only move them to a government job or a writing those exams or a engineering, medical, those kind of streams, and it becomes too difficult. This is where the second pillar comes in, which is the entire society or a family or that particular father, mother, brother who actually influences the student's decision.
I think I would like to quickly tell you one very common thing that we observe around us. In fact, just 2 days back, again, there was a headline saying the futility of engineering degree, or the kind of engineers, the degrees, the curriculum is churning out, and they are so unskilled and they don't have any practical knowledge, and then they come with only some theory. So you see, but still, Rajesh, as you know, we know even around us, people around us, whether it is people who come from a lower income strata or even middle class. Of course, engineering is the topmost choice, but then even such people, they don't mind selling their farms, they don't mind selling their houses, but they want to make sure that their son or even daughters go to engineering colleges. So when you said parents, now how do you convert such a parent into someone who appreciates an ITI? They don't even know, right?
So that's why I think we should view this in two buckets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One is in terms of a family or a parent or a sibling who is viewing this post at 12th standard, where they have to go. Should they take a degree? Should they go in for a vocational education? That kind of a, awareness or a parenting is set to a set of people who are past 12th. And how do we address them to make skills aspirational? Right? Okay, don't push the person for an engineering. You can also take the 6 months, 12 months to a 2-year kind of a program, or a number of years of program, and start earning better. Let me step back and look at the parents whose kids have not been able to clear a 10th or a 12th. Okay, so these both are equally important. I'm not for a minute trying to say that vocational education is for the dropouts. So, but these are two different worlds. And these two different worlds, and when we speak to these families, we need to look at it in two different perspectives. One is from a career progression. The other is more from an awareness. I mean, awareness in both sides, but in terms of how do they have the person more productive, start earning from early things, so that they don't, I mean, he or she has a problem with academics, hence he or she had failed in 10th or 12th. How can I bridge that particular using some skills so that I can get into a labor market? Okay, so these two awareness is two different things. And I think pivot of these awareness starts from Parent Teachers Association of Schools. That's the reason we started off saying schools, or the schools where the kid is studying, thanks to midday scheme and other things, people are at schools.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, how does a teacher or a principal start engaging with these parents and create awareness about the benefits of vocational education? Okay, one by mandated, by NEP, etc. But otherwise, what are the options available? What are the issues which can be issues which is there? Like, it can be as simple as, I don't want my son or a daughter to go out of my hometown. It can be a very elementary or a very important, that what kind of an employers will take my child? What sort of a facilities that employer is having? Yeah. What kind of a pay it is? I mean, it can be on various parts. Is my son or a daughter safe?
Yeah.
It starts with basic alignment of these things, and then exposing the world of work. Hey, if you do the data analytics kind of this program after 12th or as a vocational, it is good. If you do CNC operations, it is good. I mean, like, you're actually giving those sense of elements to them, and bringing the family aligned is the critical part. Now, here we spoke last time also, key role is alumni or role modeling.
Yeah, role model.
In that particular pin code, how do I get a role model who will start talking to the parents, to the siblings, to the people? How do they start talking to the students? And how do we bring these elements up? And this also can be, when I'm using the word alumni for the nearest idea who has done better, bringing that person up as a role model, or within that particular village who has gone and seen the world outside, how do we get them? These are the tools or props to be used in getting the parents aligned into the mainstream.
Yeah, I think this alumni and the former students of ITIs who have done better as entrepreneurs or as employees, mostly we see them going to public sector units, right, and government kind of organizations. So I think that's one of the easiest things to do also compared to all the others that you spoke about. And these are all time taking things, isn't it? We can't expect change to happen overnight, and we can't expect every parent to appreciate what ITI does. So coupled with infrastructure, coupled with this kind of advocacy where we bring in the real people, I think that could be one positive step forward in the direction that you are saying these changes can happen. Now, in addition to this, I notice one more important aspect which we just talked about is to do with industry, one of the key stakeholders. There is this provision for IMC, that is Institution Management Committee, where the industry can actively adopt ITI, be a part of it, mentor, guide, do a whole lot of things, and also employ them and all. This is one part of it. But there is another angle I want to add to this to make it more complex for you. Recently, I was talking to a principal of an ITI in Bihar, and what he told me has struck in my mind. He said, look, when you talk about ITIs, first thing you remember the geographical location of the ITI. Okay, because he said the kind of work that happens in ITI heavily depends on the geographical location. I think that made perfect sense to me, and it captured everything. When he said that, indirectly he was talking about the industrialization, the scope for jobs, the scope for employment, and so many other things. So the disparity is huge, right? Talk about ITIs in Bihar, ITIs in Gujarat, Orissa, Maharashtra and Orissa, I think, are always in the headlines, making some kind of, they have some kind of achievements to showcase and others. If you rank them, because they have a ranking system also, they can't be on a very even kind of a level. Now, this is a very complex situation. So how do we go ahead to bring in industry so that at least few things are ironed out, in this kind of a system?
I think interesting. So, see, I'm just using the word bias in a loose terms, from an industry perspective. But let us look at what are the biases industry is looking at. There are three kinds of biases. One, like you said, about a regional bias. Whether that is near, where is that particular skill development center or Institute of Skills or an ITI located? Okay. Second is what kind of a people they are churning out. Let us call it as a gender bias. Are they churning out more women, youth, in what kind of a backgrounds which they are coming in from, etc. The third is a social bias. I mean, more from a region, caste, kind of socioeconomic background which they come in from, and what kind of a jobs they can take it up. I mean, the reason is in terms of their aspiration or in terms of their learnability. So the three biases is what industry has. So for example, if industry would like to, or a company would like to take people which is maybe near to their area or from a distant area, those are something which is getting aligned. Industry would like, let's just step back on, if these are the three biases, what is expected out of the industry? And recently when I was speaking to some for recruitment for certain ITIs, one strange thing that HR managers spoke about was, if he is from 2020 batch, we can't offer him a contract job or a full-time job, put him as an intern. See, COVID, I mean, we try to, first of all, ITI system is crippled with at least the perception of lack of infrastructure. Added to this, the last 2 years of COVID has actually crippled the student or the perception in the industry. Saying that now, okay, we were going to ITIs for the technical understanding, even though they were not up to the mark. Now, these batches who was passing out in the last 2 years, do they have practical experience as such? So you are now getting into I'm just clubbing it under social bias, but you're already getting a bias before even a person comes in.
Yes.
And that bias is getting more and more stronger. Now, I will not, I mean, these are strong words, right? I will not take him onto the monthly wage or in the wage which they were being taken before, because now I need to put more training into it. Can they be taken as an intern? And this is where apprenticeships comes in a larger way. I mean, in terms of at least let them start earning, even if in a smaller amount. How can they start earning? And then once the industry accepts them as skilled or semi-skilled, we can get into the job pay parity. Now here, without family or without parents and student buying into this thought process, it's not a win-win. Why I'm trying to connect the three pieces is industry today would like to take these people from skill development centers or these kind of places, but would like to offer it as an internship or an apprentice. There will be others that I'm just talking from an overall perspective. Now, then comes the question from the student side. They choose between a career and salary. Like, for example, somebody would have done an auto service technician course. When they move into an auto service kind of a job, they may, as an apprentice, they may get only 70% of the minimum wage. But if he or she moves into a contract job for service, some level of service technician in a new age app like Bounce or whichever way it is, maybe he will get a salary higher. Or he can move to a different industry. He goes to a call center. He can get a salary. The choice is with the student. Are you going to invest in your career? Or are you going to invest in salary in the initial time? This is again a counseling comes in terms of, yes, at this point of time, we would like them to invest in a career in the initial things, not just salary. Then how does the ecosystem work?
Yeah. Part of it to a large extent is kind of clubbed under mobilizing, and mobilizing itself, personally I'm not very happy about the word, and I often talk about it in various forums saying we should not be using that word because it has a very negative connotation. You mobilize somebody means there is an implied forced of course, there could be a lot of positives as well, saying we are creating awareness and we are educating people and telling them, hey, look, this kind of an education is good for you. Or I think when you go to the, the most, I think when you go to the district level or even below that, and want to create such awareness and counseling, probably somebody would say, hey, look, mobilizing will take care of it. But I don't think that's the approach. So probably there needs to be more professional counseling. And I would also see, I would also like to ask you if any of these media, which is like, it can be YouTube as well. And YouTube already is doing that in a big way for ITIs. I think the amount of the number of videos for ITIs, mostly in Hindi, I have seen on YouTube. I do a lot of learning by watching them myself. Humongous amount of videos. I'm sure it's helping a lot of people. I don't just watch them, I go and see the comments also. There are a lot of people who ask questions. Okay, so it's not like ITIs are not known or people don't know what career would be, what they ask very pointed questions. And the people who are doing these videos, they are usually trainers, instructors, they give them the right information. I think this needs to be strengthened further and made more formalized. I feel, it could be even channels like any TV channel, for example, local TV channels. I would say local is the word these days. So any regional language TV channels or anything which people tend to watch, or even YouTube. I don't know, this kind of advocacy is much needed. Yeah.
No, absolutely. This is again, we need to look at, there is no one silver bullet which can solve the problem. There is going to be multiple interventions which is required to solve the problem. So any intervention is good intervention. That's the way we like to look at it. But let us speak the point which you spoke about, mobilization. And I would like to put these buckets into two parts. One is structural transformation which is required in that domain of counseling or mobilization. And then there is a frictional side of it to get the activities done. Now, let's address a smaller part of frictional. What is frictional? Frictional is ITI has an admission in July and 90 people has to be admitted. I have to ensure that 90 people are admitted by the end of July or June, whichever the time frame it is. I will do everything under the sun for that particular year, for that particular batch, to get the students on board. Pamphlet distribution, this, that, etc., talking about the benefits of that particular idea and get it off. To me, that is frictional, because for a survival mode, you mobilize the students and put him in. Whether he's a right guy, wrong guy, whether he's going to stick to the job, etc., is a different part of it. At a structural transformation, and this is again, we're bringing in the schools, government schools, and the CBSE or any state board schools. Government has actually successfully done vocationalization of school education by bringing in vocational teachers on roles like LabourNets or various kinds of organization. They have actually executed in various states. Now, what prevents the government to invest in career counselors in all these schools? And their responsibility is not just to counsel the students, but also counsel the parents and counsel the stakeholders nearby, to bring in the element of why the vocational education is an important thing, and the mindset of it can be like we spoke before, right? Will my kid have a safe working condition? Will they have a toilet at the workplace? It can be any such kind of a thing. As a career counselor, how do they bring in the element of this, and which has to be funded through the government through various initiatives? You'll find a structural change.
Yeah.
So it is, if you are thinking about a structural things today, like you said, there is a huge pressure on mobilization to get the students. You are not trying to address the structural problem. Like ITIs, in some states they give incentive for women ITIs for certain trades. Those are incentives just to ensure that the people come on to the ITI system. But how do you convert structurally, bringing in the benefits of the ITI system, and then say there are opportunities is structural? So in my view, these things has to go hand in hand.
Yeah, so very rightly, as you said, incentives and all could be very momentary. It's like, it's something like a quick fix, but then we need a long-term solution. And that, I think, in addition to counseling, I would add some kind of diagnostics tests and others which we give to the students to understand their personality. There's so many such tests available. There could be free tests also available, which they can do on their mobile app playfully, just to get an idea about what kind of orientation they have, what would they like to do. I think when we include all this, it becomes a complete package, and it would also be easy to probably convince the parent, hey, look, your child shows more interest in a craft and not in this, or your child is more oriented towards reading history or reading books and not doing something with hand, right? Few other important aspects about improving ITIs in India pertaining to industry collaboration, and also how we can create multiple paths for students so that they don't see this as a dead end, is something that we are going to focus in the next episode. So look forward to the next episode, and we are going to share the 3 important action points as well in the next episode. So before I close this episode, I request you to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any notifications from us. Thank you so much for watching, and in case you are connected with ITIs in your capacity as a trainer or a student or a principal or any other person from the industry who is contributing to the ITI ecosystem in India, we would love to hear from you. So please share your views and also let us know if these insights were useful. Thank you so much for being a part of NSN Connect 2022 and the series Reigniting the Skilling Landscape in India. Thank you so much. Goodbye.